Welcome to the Football Garbage Time NFL podcast. My name is Wong, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Football Garbage Time. And with me is my co-host, Ryan Whitfield. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing okay. MLB trade deadline's got me a little frustrated at the moment, but other than that, I'm living.
Excellent. Yes, and of course, we have lots of talk about because we are actually on the day that the preseason starts. That's pretty excited. You must be pretty psyched about that too, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean the preseason with the 3-game format has gotten even worse, but it means we're one step closer to the real stuff. So,
well, I mean, these guys who are playing tonight actually have 4 preseason games, so lots to look forward to for their fans, I'm sure. But hey, listen, all NFL fans are looking forward to the regular season starting, but we got stuff that we want to check out during the preseason. So today, we're going to focus on teams and players that we want to watch in the preseason, getting ready for the regular season. And there's a lot of changes during the offseason through the draft, through new coaches, through all sorts of things. And of course, as Ryan, you mentioned, there's only 3 preseason games this year, but the teams that are playing in the Hall of Fame game will have 4. So another opportunity for those Lions and Chargers to see some of their new offenses, new defenses, and of course their new coaches that are involved. With that said, let's kick this off, Ryan. And let me ask you, what teams or players are you looking forward to watching in the preseason and why?
Yeah, I think the interesting teams are always the bad ones, like or the bubble teams, right? We know kind of where the good teams stand. So, for instance, one team I'm very interested in watching that obviously had a pretty big offseason and have 3 young guys at offensive positions of note, and have a coach who's on the hot seat is the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors last year, Jackson Dart this year, and Cam Scatterbo. There's 3 primary skill positions, young guys. And again, a coach who is, I think a candidate for a midseason fire. If they get off to a 2-6 start, I'm not sure that staff stays in place. So as much as I just said, like the preseason's not as exciting as it used to be, it is important for teams like that to come out and start to build early in August, because they're not going to have again a slow start means they're out by Halloween kind of deal, in my opinion. So that's certainly a team I'm interested in watching. Another team that had an interesting offseason for different reasons, particularly in their quarterback room, are the Browns. Watching the reports out of who's performing and who hasn't been in the early days of camp over there has been interesting, but seeing that live will definitely be noteworthy, because you don't often see, the only other true example I can think of is RG3 and Kirk Cousins, on the 2011 Washington then Redskins. Where we've had 2 quarterbacks this high status drafted in the same year and put into the same quarterback room, not to mention the Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco aspect and stuff. So I think Cleveland will be very interesting for that. And then lastly, I'll throw out my Patriots, a team that has won 8 games, I believe it is, over the last 2 seasons, had a coaching change, coaching staff overhaul. Drake May entering a second year. His first year as the presumed starter. Stephon Diggs in the mix. The Patriots, outside of Stephon Diggs, don't have a great wide receiver room, but it is a deep wide receiver room. So there's, locally, there's a lot of interest. Again, I don't know how much of a story this is nationally, but Jalen Polk was a second round choice last year at receiver for the Patriots, and he might not make it out of this camp. As we sit right here, I think the 3 guaranteed guys are Diggs, Pop Douglas, and I talked to this with my 14-year-old in the car today, but Pop Douglas and Kyle Williams, the the rookie that they took in the second round. Outside of that, I think Mac Hollins has a pretty good shot to make the team. Kayshon Boutte is having a really good camp after being probably their best receiver last year. So that leaves Kendrick Bourne, Javon Baker, who was a fourth-round pick last year, Elijah Chisholm, which I believe is an undrafted guy who's made a lot of noise through rookie OTAs, rookie minicamp OTAs, and now early in training camp. And the aforementioned Jalen Polk. I mean, three of those guys are not going to make the team. Baker's having what they sound like a better camp so far. I'm not down there, a better camp than Polk is off to. So, I mean, anytime a second rounder doesn't make it to his second season with the team that drafted him, and I know it's a different regime now, I think that's a story of note. But you look at the betting lines, the Patriots, I think, are projected at 8.5 on most sites, which gives them 4.5 more wins than they had last year or the last two seasons individually. I mean, that's a pretty significant jump. So, I think there's a lot to watch there and see what it looks like. And I think I saw a stat today that Drake May hasn't thrown an interception yet this week or through the first week of training camp here. So
plus.
That was an issue for him last year, was turning the ball up. So a lot to watch there. So those are probably the big three that I'm looking at right now going into preseason.
Yeah, I love those. Those are great options to look at. And I think we mentioned a little bit, the Patriots are also on my list of teams that I have a very close eye on. New coaching is the thing that I'm really interested in, and Mike Vrabel being there. I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I mean, I kind of have this lazy analysis that it's going to be defense and run game first. But, I mean, they have all the parts there to get that offense going through the air. So it'll be interesting to see how they take advantage of that. And maybe we'll get some insight in the preseason games. There's a couple other teams that I'm looking at, and two of them are the ones in the Hall of Fame game that's coming up. I mean, they'll have 3 preseason games, as we mentioned earlier. That will be the regular ones, and then one extra one, which is this Hall of Fame game. So a number of other opportunities to see some players that may be near the end of rosters or even rookies get some time. As a case in point, the Chargers actually will probably be starting Trey Lance. You remember that guy? I mean, he was drafted at the beginning of the draft, 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I mean, he was the next big thing. We thought he was going to be one of those all-purpose run pass type quarterbacks over there in San Francisco. We thought that'd be a new regime there, and instead it was Brock Purdy. That last picked guy in the draft, and not Trey Lance. And Trey Lance has been floating around trying to find a job ever since. So now he's going to start, at least as far as I understand, in the Hall of Fame game for the Chargers. You probably get a long look. We all know that Justin Herbert is the incumbent there and will be the starter, but who's number 2? We don't know. And he may have an opportunity there to make a splash, maybe revitalize some of his trade value so that he can find an opportunity to start or be a really good backup in the NFL. The other guy that's starting that maybe get some play time in the second half tonight and maybe in the rest of the regular preseason as well is DJ Uiagalelei. Remember that guy? I mean, he was supposed to be the number 1 guy in Clemson after Trevor Lawrence left. And then, of course, he managed to revitalize his career after crashing and burning, going to the Pac-12, I guess. And then he went back to Florida State to try to make a statement in his senior year and crash and burned immediately, benched after like 5 or 6 games. So now he's there, I believe, undrafted free agent over there for the Chargers. He's going to get some play time as well, and maybe he has an opportunity to make a statement for being on an NFL roster. Who knows? They also have some great rookies there who could make a splash. From Marion Hampton, who, of course, was drafted in the first round by them, could be the running back of the future for them. And then Trey Harris, who has picked up their top drafted wide receiver there, can give Justin Herbert another weapon. So I think the Chargers are a team that I have all eyes on, and they have 4 games in order to sort things out there. It should be really interesting on that front. And on the other side of the V, the Lions, they just lost their offensive and defensive coordinators. So, they're playing a brand new offensive coordinator, brand new defensive coordinator. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to do. They're probably not going to do anything special in a preseason game. but it's entirely possible we get a little bit of a flavor as to whether they're going to kind of continue what we saw last year from the likes of Ben Johnson and so on, or are we going to see something completely different? I don't know, but I think it'll be worth seeing how that all plays out, in addition to how their rookies will also be performing with defensive tackle Tyleik Williams, their first-round pick, and offensive guard Tate Rutledge, their second-round pick, probably getting extensive amounts of play time this season to see if they can get acclimated. Of course, we know that we're not going to get away from Jared Goff. He was their incumbent and starter there. But Hendon Hooker, remember that guy? He was drafted as well out of Texas, and we all thought that maybe he'd get a shot to take over. They thought he might be heir apparent, and as Jared Goff was seen as a bridge quarterback, he will probably get some play time in the preseason as well. So Hendon Hooker, also a guy who might be able to establish some value for himself as either a backup or a potential starter in the NFL. Now, before I go to the rest of my teams here, let me turn it back over to you, Ryan. What do you think about that? The Chargers and the Lions in the preseason. Lots of open questions there for me. Are you interested in watching what they're doing in the preseason as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of questions surrounding the Lions just with the drain and brain trust, on the coaching side of things and what schematically they're going to look like offensively and defensively going into this year. On the Chargers side, I mean, it's not so much a preseason question. I think they're just an interesting watch here from here on. It's the second year with Harbaugh. And, Herbert has been anointed kind of like this top 10 guy. And I think we've all seen the talent in the high end, and I know we won't see him tonight. But as the preseason goes on, I'm interested to see what he looks like this year going into the season, because I think there's it's a sneaky important headline that he has a lot to prove. And I know they cleaned out and changed over the wide receiver room last year. But, as I saw somebody tweeted out earlier, because somebody said, something about like, I'm waiting for Herbert to take that step and really establish that he's a legitimate top 10 quarterback. And someone said, why is this such a big talking point in this offseason for a guy who's so young? And someone tweeted back and said, when you're as close to your year 10 as you are to year 1, I no longer consider you a young guy. And I thought that was a really good way to put it, that like, I think he's kind of gotten away with it. And like last year was the new staff and again, the drain and the wide receivers with Keenan Allen and your boy there, Mike Williams, RIP from a football standpoint, not breaking news, he didn't die. And so again, that's not something tonight, but like offensively, I'm looking to see if the Chargers are going to be more pass heavy and more reliant on Herbert and really kind of give him the keys and put the ball in his hands and give him not just the opportunity, but put the pressure on him to go deliver in this season. And so I think we can see some of that schematically early in the preseason. And then when he gets in there, see how he starts to develop or I guess fit into that role.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's all great points. And yes, we all know my weird guy crush on Mike Williams just won't go away. I think this might be the season that it absolutely goes away. I will promise you that I will not mention Mike Williams again. I will not mention his name in vain again until after he gets picked up by another team, I'm sure, in the midseason, and I'll probably be back on the bandwagon. But let's I think there's a lot of things there, and everything you said was right. This is another year for the Chargers, and it's really interesting to see what's going to happen with them. And I'm really excited to see if this was a one-off last year with Harbaugh, or they have some game plan to proceed with Justin Herbert and make him the quarterback that everyone thought he was going to be when he started. The other team that I have my eye on are the Tennessee Titans. And part of it is because of Cam Ward. And it's not because Cam Ward was drafted number 1 overall. It's because Will Levis has chosen a weird time to go and get surgery and be out for the season, essentially. So he's on IR. He's going to be on the PUP list. It's pretty clear to me that Will Levis saw the writing on the wall and decided this is an opportunity to get right. There's no reason for him to be more injured or play injured. And that leaves the door wide open for Cam Ward to start for the Tennessee Titans. They only have Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle in that quarterback room other than Cam Ward, unless they pick somebody up in this preseason timeframe. they're going to have to give him reps, right? I mean, the guy's got no reps, and he's going to be thrown right to the Wolves, and he's going to be throwing the ball to Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett, which sounds like an awesome fantasy team from 5 to 6 years ago. So, I mean, what do you think here, Ryan? Do you have, and I know you actually studied a little bit of Cam Ward when he was in Miami. So tell us, what do you think about this? I mean, is this a good thing for Cam Ward or a bad thing for him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from a quarterback development philosophy, I think something that I got intimately familiar with last year, and I think at large needs to be understood more. Where it's this idea of like, well, are you doing a guy a disservice by throwing him to the wolves and putting a lot on him up front, or are you better off slow playing? And people will talk about Brady sitting for a year and Aaron Rodgers sitting for a couple of years, and I just kind of think, or not think, I know it's a case by case basis. It's like any kind of management. You got to know who you're managing, and different things work for different people. And again, not to make it about New England again, but Drake May and all like the really X's and O's guys in New England last year were saying that like you could see like the development for the first several weeks when he was just practicing as the backup versus what happened when he started playing games at the end of the year was night and day, because he is a guy who learns better by playing games. And that's not everybody, right? There are guys that benefit from sitting. Mahomes, seem to benefit by having a year to undo his mechanics and rebuild them up. I think it's just a case by case basis, which is a long way of saying that I don't know. With Cam, I don't think Cam's issue is confidence, and it's not really ability. It's more consistency in my opinion. And he strikes me as a guy that I look at and said he didn't have to throw into a lot of tight windows. Like, I think his mechanics are great. I think he's got all the talent in the world. Again, I think he's a very self-assured player. We've all seen the videos of, the little dump off routes where he's standing just flat-footed, being as nonchalant as can be. Like, so he doesn't seem to me like a guy that's going to go in there and struggle, or if he goes in there and struggles, he's going to get rattled. And, David Carr all those years ago in Houston, right, who never recovered from getting his butt handed to him that first 2 years in Houston. Like, I don't think that's the issue with Cam. So I don't know that that him starting is going to be an issue. Because when I look at Cam, I look at more of a Josh Allen route of just like, is he ever going to be consistently enough on time in reading defenses? Like, I think for him, it's going to be a lot of in watching Miami's offense last year. I mean, plays were schemed up, so guys were just wide open, or he could just go make plays in the flow of the game, right? Some of the stuff that we know about Johnny Manziel now, which is like he wasn't watching film and he didn't understand X's and O's of football. And in college, you can get away being, Johnny Money, running around, Johnny Football, and doing the money sign and spinning around 10 times in the backfield throwing. But when you get to the next level, all of a sudden, it wasn't him, but I forget who. I saw an interview recently, somebody talking about like, I had heard that, but I always thought, no, I'm different, I'll be fine. And then you get to the NFL and you realize that the defensive tackles run 4.6s, right? So like you can't do that in the NFL. So like, I don't think that they're doing a disservice to Cam. I think because again, I think that's more of a mental thing. I think some guys mentally need time to get to the NFL level. I don't think that's for him. I think it's going to be strictly just is he going to be able to learn offenses to the levels to do good enough pre-snap reads, and that he can consistently fit the ball in tight windows. Because I mean, I'm drawing a blank now. The tight end out of Miami last year, he got drafted by somebody. I'm forgetting his name now. Like, he's a big lumbering tight end. Like, he's fine. I forget where he went now, but like the amount of times he was 15 yards wide open is like, that's not happening at this level. Your slow tight end is not going to be that wide open consistently at the NFL level. And so, being able to just uncork the ball 40 yards with a flip of the wrist is not going to benefit him as much. So, but the one thing I'll just say on the Will Levis thing, because you mentioned that maybe it was like he saw the writing on the wall, but I look at it like he seems to be kind of out to lunch when you watch him play. That play last year where he flipped the ball away and it gets pick sixed on him. Like, He doesn't seem to be fully dialed in. I don't know if you saw the gruesome photo he shared on social media this week of the shoulder, and it's like, bro, did you like even if Cam was well, you were gonna play with that this year? Like it took you till July to realize that needed to be surgically repaired. I'm not a doctor, but I don't know the way that thing was hanging off his body. He thought he was okay. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So I think he just might be a little bit not the sharpest tool in the shed, as they say.
I'm giving him too much credit.
Yeah, I don't think it was a scheme or that he just realized. I think I just don't know that he's fully dialed in.
So, and you were talking about Elijah Arroyo, I think the tight end of Miami, drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how.
Fine player, but go watch some clips and watch how wide open he was in that Miami offense at times last year. Like that's not Elijah Arroyo is not getting that open at the NFL level. So Cam's just going to have to be a little bit more consistently dialed in.
Yeah, and I am worried about who he's throwing to. And speaking of which, the Titans, remember when the Titans traded away A.J. Brown for a first-round draft pick and got Treylon Burks, who is now injured and released by the Titans? Wow. I mean, I don't want to revisit that trade just because I feel bad for Titans fans. You know, that what an absolute out-and-out disaster that was. But, you know, Cam Ward's going to be throwing to Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson. I mean, I can't think of a greater list of cast-offs than that. So I don't know. I mean, is there room for success? I mean, his number one running back is Tony Pollard. I mean, this does not seem like a team that's built for success now. So I have my eye on him. I think it would have been great if he actually had a chance to sit. I don't think he's going to get a lot of success with that supporting cast right now. Another team that's on my radar are, of course, my Chicago Bears. You mentioned them a little bit as well, and that's because Caleb Williams going into his sophomore year obviously was an up and down season last year for Caleb Williams. He looked like he had all the right parts, but none of that worked out at all. But now they got Ben Johnson as their head coach, and we have DJ Moore coming back. We have Rome Odunze in his sophomore season, and we got Luther Burden as our third receiver who was drafted this year. And Cole Kmet will be paired with Colston Loveland. We know Ben Johnson likes playing with two tight end sets, so that could be some potential there because Colston Loveland, of course, drafted 10th overall this year in the draft. So I have my eyes on. I mean, I've obviously overdrank the Kool-Aid once again, ready to be disappointed by week 2, if not week 1. But Ryan, you interested at all what's going to happen with those Chicago Bears in the preseason?
Of course. I don't mean to rain on your parade, but the more we see of Caleb Williams from a personality standpoint, the less I believe he's ever going to be successful in the NFL. And I don't think he could be in a better situation heading to year 2. Now I say that a little bit facetiously because obviously, he could be with what Mahomes had, 5 years ago with prime Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill and, Andy Reid as his coach. And as much as I like Ben Johnson's a little less proven there, you know what I mean? So like, obviously there's better situations, but like, it's pretty damn good, right? He's loaded with weapons. They revamped the offensive line. He's got an offensive guru as the head coach now. Like for all considerations, it's a pretty ideal scenario for him to be in. And especially for a guy, who was drafted number 1 overall, who's in the second year of his NFL career. Like usually the team drafting you are, they look like the Patriots or the Titans right now, right? Where it's like some cast-offs and rebuilding, and it's a longer. So I mean, he's for year 2 as the number 1 pick. He's in a really nice scenario. It's honestly, I don't think we've seen a guy drafted this high from a team that just had a weird scenario where they were able to. Like since the 2011 Indianapolis Colts, right? Andrew Luck, because of the Peyton Manning injury, stepped into an actually pretty good team that really shouldn't have been a number 1 overall pick. And same thing here. So yeah, I think it's interesting because I think it is kind of a, you can't say make or break in the second season, but I think we're going to learn a lot this year. Like if he's not pushing being the first Bears quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, and that doesn't mean he has to get there, but I mean, if he's not in shouting distance, like if he finishes this year at 3,200 yards with a 62% completion percentage, and he throws 22 touchdowns to 12 picks.
Right.
I mean, I think he's kind of an abject failure. Like, I think he needs to be above 3,500. I think he needs to be close to, pushing high 20s, low 30s touchdown numbers.
Mhm.
And I think I really need to see a good command of the offense. I think the play that's been going around on Twitter or X, I don't know if you've seen this, the one where they're running a trick play and everyone's been circulating that around the last 24 hours saying, like, the Bears look like a JV football team trying to execute Ben Johnson's practice plays. Like, I think we need to, remember that again. At one point, Mahomes had, thrown 5 interceptions in like his first padded practice the year that he did take over as the Kansas City starting quarterback. Like, it's okay that it looks slow motion right now as they're learning it, but like if they come out in the preseason and it still looks like Caleb, like I have no question about the skills, but if from a command standpoint, it looks like he's not the general out there. If it looks like he doesn't have a command, if it looks like him and Ben Johnson are not on the same page, or like he's still getting last second checks, or his guys are not lining up properly, if they're having procedure penalties, like all the stuff that you need, a quarterback to be in charge of, like if that stuff is happening and it looks sloppy,
Mhm.
I think that that's a huge red flag, because that's the stuff that I don't know that he's ever going to be really good at.
Yeah.
Because from a physical standpoint, there's nothing he can't do. I hate to be the guy who keeps going back to the walking away from your team to go cry in a family member's arms when you're supposed to be the leader of that team and you should be there for your teammates in that moment. Like, that's the stuff I look at him and I go, I need to show me that you're past that personality stuff. Because there's a lot of positions in sports you can be the eccentric kind of weird guy at. Hockey goalies, number one, right? Closers in sports,
Right.
right? You can outside of domestic stuff, but I'm just talking about the weird stuff you can be a Aroldis Chapman and you can be a closer. But like if you're gonna be a quarterback, you gotta be one of the guys. Like you gotta be the leader of the guys, you gotta be in command. And I just don't know. So long answer there of saying that,
No.
like, I think all the pieces and all the skills are there. I think we're going to learn a lot about whether or not he's mature enough and a leader enough to be that guy in Chicago and in the NFL.
Yeah, totally agree with all that, and certainly hopeful that it will actually happen this year. Being a long-suffering Bears fan, at least since 1985, which is a freaking long time ago now, I would love to see something happen on offense. All right, let's one last thing. Obviously, teams with new coaches are teams that I want to watch. We mentioned a lot of them today, but there's a couple more I'm going to throw out there. I'm not going to say anything about them. I'm just going to ask you, Ryan, if any of these teams are ones that you want to watch during the preseason, or are you just going to let it ride out to the regular season? The New Orleans Saints obviously have Kellen Moore there. The New York Jets have Aaron Glenn, who obviously a defensive coordinator from Detroit. Jacksonville Jaguars got Liam Cohen, and Las Vegas Raiders have Pete Carroll coming out of retirement. So are you interested at all of watching any of those teams in the preseason? In order to see if anything has changed with regard to their play with the new head coaches.
Jacksonville, yes. Liam Cohen, again, another guy in Trevor Lawrence who's starting to enter make or break territory. Like it's time to put it together or not. And yeah, I think Jacksonville is just fascinating. Travis Hunter, the whole. There's a lot there to watch. And Liam,
Right.
less celebrated than Ben Johnson, but probably the second best offensive mind going to a new team this last offseason, like pure offensive guy. So Jacksonville will be very interesting because again, I feel like they've had a lot of pieces and they've been largely a disappointment since 2017, except for the one playoff comeback a couple years ago. But so them, yes. The other three, if I'm being totally honest, I couldn't have less of an interest in watching. I think the Saints. I mean, I think we talked about this post draft. I think what the Saints did in the draft is one and done fireable level type stuff. Look, I have questions on Shedeur Sanders, like we all do. The other teams, you can see why they did what they did. The Saints, it felt personal. it felt like we are going to take somebody who's inarguably worse than Shador just to prove a point that we won't take him. And when you've been largely irrelevant for close to a decade, because even towards the end of Breeze, I mean, I know they made it to the NFC Championship in 2018, but like most of those end years with Breeze, like they weren't real contenders anymore. Like to do that, like who do you think you are? So I expect to be comically bad in New Orleans this year, and they deserve it. So that one interests me a little bit. Las Vegas, and we all know, like guys in their 70s, they're not successful in the NFL anymore. Not in current day, I mean in general. Like once you get to that age, you're so set in your ways, the game has passed you by. I could give you 2 hours worth of stuff about Bill Belichick and all the stuff we found out that was going on here, that Jordan Hudson was happening 5 years ago, and it just shows kind of like a lack of judgment he was making when that was becoming a priority. Stuff where like the guy who was preaching football only is now asking her to wear specific color sweatshirts so he can pick her out in the crowd. Meanwhile, his teams are getting worse year by year. I mean, like it's just guys in their 70s don't really work as head coach in the NFL. We don't have a lot of examples of where it did work. And so, then I have a core philosophy about walking away from the game and coming back from Gibbs in the late 90s or whenever it was that he came back to Washington. Like it just doesn't work. You can't walk away from the game and come back. Like, if you're a younger guy and you get fired and you go do the coaching circles for a year to develop, like that's different. But like the guy who's older and walks away and retires and then comes out of retirement, like I think even when Denver, like I think Sean Payton, like I know it was a cute little story last year, but like Sean Payton hasn't been great in Denver since coming back. He's certainly not Sean Payton of 15 years ago. So I think that's going to be a disaster there. And I'm drawing a blank on the fourth team you mentioned, but
the New York Jets and Aaron Glenn.
Get out of here, New York Jets. I like Aaron Glenn, but like seriously, what are we doing? The Jets quarterback room on to everything. That franchise is an absolute mess. They're just gonna wait and sign. Wow, I can't. First, I'm still getting back into football season.
Still not into shape.
10 years from now, they'll sign Jordan Love for a 2-year deal when he's done in Green Bay, and tell everyone how they're going to win a Super Bowl, and it won't work out again because that seems to be their plan. It's just wait for guys to leave the Packers, sign them, get the worst version of them, and go nowhere. So
and then hopefully Jordan Love will then go on to commit Medicare fraud, so they can be just all the same, because that's what we love about Green Bay. Hey. I'm just saying, Packers quarterbacks are all the same. They're great quarterbacks, and just I'm just saying. All right, that's the end of our show. Let's wrap this up here, Ryan. Why don't you give us your social media so people can follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Ryan Whitfield NE, and I just have to get this off my chest while I have a second to vocalize it. I don't know if you saw this, but as we were signing on in the final 2-3 minutes of the MLB trade deadline, MLB on Fox tweeted out that the Red Sox had acquired Joe Ryan, who was the prized piece we were all looking for around here. And then they deleted it 2 minutes later because they got it wrong. And instead, they ended up with Dustin May and his 4.75 ERA out of LA. So
nice.
I'm pissed about the deadline, but I'm extra pissed at Fox for misfiring a tweet that got all of us excited here in Boston for something that didn't end up happening. So
awesome.
On my shit list.
All right. Excellent. Always good to know that you guys got a nice 4.75 ERA pitcher coming into town. That's nothing like that to turn your season around. All right. You can find me at FB Garbage Time on Twitter /X. You can find me at FB Garbage Time on Blue Sky as well, or at the Football Garbage Time page on Facebook. As usual, thank you for listening and wasting time with us. Until next time, enjoy your NFL week and the NFL preseason. And we'll be back more regularly as the preseason continues, I promise you all. So you can hear Ryan rant more about everything that's terrible in Boston right now.